Welcome, fellow horror hounds, and welcome to the latest episode of Talk and Stalk, your unholy home for horror. I'm your host, as always, Barry, and I'm joined today by fellow friend and film buff, Pete.
Hi, guys.
Glad to have you here, man. Thank God it's nearly the weekend. One more day than the weekend. How's your week going thus far?
Yeah, it's been okay. Thanks for having me again. It's been a bit cooler. Thank goodness the temperature has not been as intense.
I don't know about you, but this week's just dragging for me. It just feels like it should be the weekend already.
Is it? No, it's been quite quick here. I don't know.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to be on. I'm going to start billing you, though. I am going to start charging you at some point.
Okay, I'll keep saving then.
I'm sure with the wages you earn, you can afford it. But
seen my pay packet recently.
Yeah. So obviously the film we're going to be talking about today is a movie that, again, I think we're both a big fan of. Obviously, we covered Black Christmas, which I believe was just this week, wasn't it? Just earlier this week, in fact.
Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. So the film that we're going to be obviously talking about today is a little horror film called Friday the 13th. Released in 1980. Personally, it's one of my favourite slasher movies from the golden age. It is my favourite of the franchise, in fact, still. And it still is my favourite campsite slasher film. What about yourself, Pete? Is this a film that you hold in quite high regard?
Yes, I think it's got a special place in my heart because it was one of the kind of stronger films that I saw at an early age.
Yeah.
Before we had the video recorder at home, I actually saw it at a friend's house. They had rented the title out and they'd watched it the night before and they invited me over the next morning and I watched it. And it's uncut, gory glory because the Warner video was actually uncut.
Yeah.
In the UK. They had everything.
Yeah.
And I just so happened to have the Warner, the preset.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers.
Wow, now that's a bit of nostalgia right there, isn't it?
A real relic.
Yeah. Wow.
So
that's impressive. When you said you had something to show, I was getting a little bit worried what it was going to be. You know, we've got to try and keep things clean on here and whatever. But I actually thought you was going to pull out a hockey mask. But
close.
Crystal Lake memories. That's like the Holy Grail, isn't it? Really, for Friday the 13th fans.
Really good book as well.
I'm actually ashamed to admit I don't actually own it. I do actually need to purchase it at some point. But yeah, Friday the 13th. So obviously released in 1980, directed by Cunningham, who of course produced Last House on the Left, with obviously directed by Wes Craven, his directorial debut. Friday the 13th was really the first slasher movie to really be backed by a major studio. That being Paramount. I think Halloween proved that these films can actually make good money at the box office. But obviously Halloween was an independent film. Paramount saw the success of Halloween. And this is clearly a film that is following in the footsteps, if you will. It's a film that was riding on the success of Halloween.
Definitely.
Without a doubt. But, with this film as well, I think you'll agree with me here. I mean, is this your favourite film in the franchise? Would you actually say the original Friday the 13th is your personal favourite?
I would say, yeah, it's quite close between that and Part 4. I think Final Chapter's a really strong film.
Okay, yeah.
For a sequel, but I would say the first one is my go-to, really.
Yeah. Well, Joseph Zito directed Part 4, didn't it? And it was his work on The Prowler that actually got him attention. That's what landed him the role for Friday the 13th Part 4. It's funny, really, and the final chapter, and then we still got 6 more films afterwards.
Exactly. Yeah. It just rumbles on.
But yeah, Friday the 13th, I love that sense of isolation. I love the whole summer camp setting. And obviously it was actually filmed at a real life camp, which I believe was called Nobi Bosco. I believe it
That's
was,
correct.
in New Jersey, that
Jersey.
is still actually functioning, you know, and I believe they've actually got a lot of the memorabilia and that there, because obviously this is the camp's claim to fame, the fact that, you know, Friday the 13th was actually filmed there. And I think I read that Sean Cunningham had actually, just the title alone, Friday the 13th, he thought was a big enough selling point. The movie's going to sell just by that title alone.
Yeah,
I think he was so, well, yeah, he was so optimistic about it. He was so confident it would sell. I think he actually took like a whole page out in Variety Film Magazine or something to promote the film.
Right. And I think he was offered quite a sum of money, but then he was conscious of the royalties and he changed his mind on that.
Yeah.
So that was a wise decision.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, as I say, you know, for a movie like this to actually have a big major studio, you know, financially backing it, this film was a box office success. It didn't make as much money as Halloween, but it was a box office success nevertheless. I think its budget was like 550,000. So just over $500,000, but it actually made over $39 million at the box office.
Yeah, I know.
So
really.
a lot of profit. Now, obviously, the inception for this film as well. You had Harry Manfredini, fantastic score. Love the music to this film. The which it's actually kick. What is it again? It's actually kick ma.
Yeah. And I think it's him that's doing it.
It is. He actually went to a microphone, didn't he?
That's Harry Manfredini. Yeah, is doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he went to the microphone and he just like killed, and then it just kind of echoed in there, and it was just the score. The score was born, and of course, in this film is when Adrienne King is like the final girl, and Kevin Bacon, one of the earliest roles of his career. Obviously, I think this was really kind of the first leading role of his career. I know he was in National Lampoon's Animal House in a smaller role, but this was kind of his first major role. Let's face it, he's actually involved in one of the best deaths in the movie.
Oh yes, indeed. That is unforgettable. So Tom Savini, special makeup effects. They got him on board when they saw. I mean, they just worshipped him when they saw Dawn of the Dead, and it's no surprise. How they pulled it off is amazing.
Well, the blood, it wasn't going through, and he had to actually blow through it, didn't it? And obviously, if you've got like the uncut edition, you actually see a lot more blood coming out. A great death, but a death as well that would actually be, in a way, recycled in many Friday the 13th films afterwards. You know, the killer hiding under the bed or a hammock or whatever, and an impalement from underneath, and that it become quite synonymous after that.
Throat slashing and things, and
like you said, Tom Savini got a lot of attention for 78's Dawn of the Dead, and of course he didn't actually do the SFX, did he, for Friday the 13th Part 2? He went on to do The Burning instead of that. But I think this film has got some great practical effects. I particularly like the axe in the head death.
Robbie Morgan, isn't it?
Yeah. I like the whole kind of build-up. I like that scene where she's in the bathroom and it's like we see from afar, you know, the killer's hands, watching her from behind the curtain and that. I like that whole kind of like build-up to the actual kill itself.
It's really good. Because I actually thought when I first saw it, I thought it was going to be an homage to Psycho.
Okay.
And I thought she's going to get in the shower or the bath or whatever, and it's going to be something like that. But it just was nothing like it at all.
Yeah.
Very well done, though. I agree with you.
Yeah. It's again, this film's got in comparison to the likes of Halloween, this film has a much higher body count as well. I know that in Friday the 13th Part 2, they actually trimmed down the bloodshed because Friday the 13th was actually critiqued. It was actually criticised for being a little bit too gory, which is why the murders in Part 2, the violence was very much kind of trimmed down and that. Obviously, we get the throat slashing with Annie. I just want to quickly, before I get off the topic, is Crazy Ralph is one of my favourite characters in the film.
Superb. Pure Scooby-Doo, but
Yeah.
it's brilliant.
It's got a death curse.
Yes.
What is it? Yeah, you're doomed. You can't possibly go online and see an image of Crazy Ralph without hearing that voice, can you?
Oh, that's very true. Yeah.
You really can't. And what sets Friday the 13th apart from all of the sequels is when this came out in 1980, it's a mystery. There's a sense of anonymity. You don't know who the killer is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the sequels don't have. We come to learn that very quickly Jason is the killer in these movies, but in the original Friday the 13th, and that is what I like. In fact, it is, you could say it's more akin to like Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None than it is Halloween in a way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because there's a real sense of anonymity to the killer in this movie. You could say there's suspects. You could even say that Crazy Ralph could be deemed as a suspect. Mm-hmm. Or you could say that his name's escaping me. Steve, is it? Is it Steve Christie?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
But Steve Christie, because he's clearly got a thing for... her name's escaping me, actually. Adrienne King's character. The final girl. Alice, sorry. But he's clearly got a thing, a little bit kind of creepy going on there. There's even a moment, I mean, if you really want to look into things, Harry Crosby's character, is it Bill?
I think it could be, yes.
Obviously, he uses a machete when he actually cuts up the snake and whatever. That's what I like, that the fact that the killer is actually unseen in this movie, and it is kind of a mystery. And when you first watch this film, of course, the big reveal is Betsy Palmer, isn't it?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who actually thought it was crap. I'm sure you've read that. Betsy Palmer read the script and absolutely thought it was an absolute piece of crap.
Mm-hmm. Look what happened. You know, so she made the right decision.
Well, she just desperately needed money, didn't she? She was like, I think I read online that she just wanted a car. She wanted a new car at the time. Sean Cunningham, he had bills to pay. They never thought this was going to be a great film and become part of horror culture. But I think I read somewhere that Betsy Palmer actually originally, she wanted a scene earlier on in the film. So it would make sense for the audience at the end. They'll be like, oh, it was her. But because we never actually see her prior to the film, prior to the climax of the film, there was no kind of like, oh, do you know what I mean? Because obviously nobody recognised her as being a character in the movie. But I believe that she actually wanted a scene earlier in the film because it would make no sense to the audience as to who this woman is.
No. I suppose it was a bit of a cheat in a way because there was no way of guessing because they were only introduced, you know, quite soon before they were revealed as the killer.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you, Barry, but the first time I watched it, I did make the assumption it was a man because I was looking at the hands.
Well, that's the thing. It was a man's hands used.
Yes, it was.
It was, so, and the person is actually escaping me whose name it was now, but they were using a man's hands. So yeah, because actually at the end of the movie, which again, a definite highlight of the film, the decapitation, you know, Pamela Voorhees being decapitated. If you actually look at the knuckles, there's hair on the knuckles and all that.
Yeah.
As they go down, and yeah, if you look very closely, you can tell that's not a woman. But yeah, Betsy Palmer. Now I'll be honest, she's not an actress. When I first watched this film, I think I was about maybe 11 or 12 years old. I didn't really know who Betsy Palmer was, but I think it was probably a big surprise for a lot of people seeing Betsy Palmer playing a serial killer.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
because she's very much got that motherly.
She has
look of innocence, hasn't she? And
she was certainly the mother of all mothers in this one.
Yeah, but again, it kind of goes into that whole kind of Norman Bates and with Psycho, the whole mother-son relationship, which is
protective. Getting revenge for him. Yeah, just avenging his death.
Well, the opening as well to this film, as well, because I think the opening's great. You know, we get the score. Now, I think in this movie as well, you know, every time that the killer is present, we get the POV shot, which have obviously become synonymous with slashers. That's when the score plays. I believe in the original movie, the only time we get that is when the killer is actually present. And I really like the opening, you know, similar to Halloween, if you will, you know, a couple making out, and obviously one of them. I didn't know this until recently. The first victim of the movie, the lad, was a production assistant on the film.
That's right.
I did not know that. And obviously her kill is off screen. And then we get that big Friday the 13th and the glass.
Brilliant. Such a great touch. Really, really good, really effective.
Yeah. What do you think to the whole scenes of, because I'll be honest, they used to kind of creep me out a little bit when I saw this when I was a little younger. We get like the scene, for example, her name's escaping me. It's where she goes outside to investigate, like you would, you know, you hear strange noises like you'd run out there. But it's a trope of the subgenre. It's a little kid, help me, and all that. And she goes outside and that. I always found that kind of creepy, as my younger self found that kind of creepy, hearing this little young boy's voice. But obviously we come to learn it's Pamela Voorhees, isn't it? It's kill her mummy.
That's right. Yeah.
That's quite disturbing, isn't it?
Very, very. It's unsettling. It is. It's really good. She does it. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, in regards to like the deaths in the film, now this is again something that become quite synonymous with the film. In a few of the Friday the 13th films, we get characters that are practical jokers. In this movie, we get Ned.
Yeah.
And of course, well, he's actually killed off screen, isn't he? He actually gets his throat gets cut.
Is he in the bunk below?
That's it. Above.
Or above, sorry, above.
Yeah.
Because it's his blood that drips on Kevin Bacon.
It is.
Isn't it?
Yeah, shortly before he gets the old arrow through the neck.
Right.
In the second film, ironically, in the second movie, the Joker character survives the film. He actually, and the only reason he survives it, the ironic thing is, this is the great irony. Most of the characters in these movies are killed because of their drinking, their drug taking, their sex, whatever. In the second movie, he decides to stay there and carry on drinking, and that's what has him survive. He doesn't go back to the camp. So he actually stays at. Yeah, his drinking is what survives him.
Yeah, I never thought about that. I've not seen part 2 for a long, long time. I just remember certain elements to it, you know, in certain scenes. But no, that's a good one. No, I'll need to watch it again.
Yeah, because you'd go into it, you would assume he's going to get killed, like, you know, practically every other teen in the film and that. But no, he actually survives the movie, and what has him survive is the fact that he doesn't go back to the camp because he wants to stay there drinking.
Right.
So yeah, it actually saved his life, effectively.
Yeah.
Now,
that was probably deliberate then, maybe. You know,
I'll be completely honest with the whole staples in this, you know, sex equals death and all that and whatever. I know obviously Randy brings it up in Scream, and quite often it seems to be the case, but at the same time, I don't know, because, and that it gets me on to my next point. Alice, the final girl. I'm not quite sure she's Little Miss Sweet and Innocent. I'm not sure if she's the virginal type, because, well, for one, she does smoke pot. She does smoke cannabis during the film. Laurie Strode smokes cannabis in Halloween.
She does.
All right, she doesn't like it, but she still smokes it. She smokes it. She's not, you know, but she's definitely got that virginal quality. Alice, however, it's implied there is a relationship between her and Steve Christie. That there is actually something, or there was something at the very least. So I'm not quite sure she fits into that virginal type.
Probably not, because she engages in the strip monopoly game.
Precisely. Now, admittedly, she doesn't take off clothes, I don't think. She actually, but the point is, she was actually playing it.
Yeah, she was a willing participant.
Yeah. So when people say to me, the whole final girl, they've got to, I'm not sure if there is such a such a thing as such, because even in Scream in 1996, now admittedly, you know, Nev Campbell survives the movie. She has sex with Billy Loomis. Admittedly, her breasts are covered by Billy Loomis at the of the camera, but she has sex. So I don't actually know if I buy into this whole truly virginal final girl thing.
I don't know about the virginal part. They're definitely the final girl because they
Oh
exist,
yeah,
you know, at the end.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
but yeah, I know what you mean. They're not, you know, they're not like sort of Miss
But
Pure Mint.
apparently the reason they survive is because of their pure qualities and whatever. But yeah, I always found that kind of interesting because yeah, they're playing Monopoly, like you said, they're playing strict Monopoly. I didn't know this till recently, but you know the snake that we see in the cabin. But yeah, that was Tom Savini's idea to have a snake in there. He was actually using that from personal experience, I think, when he'd done camping and that. And they actually killed a real snake.
They did, yes. I know, I was shocked to read that.
Yeah.
I really was.
I think Savini and someone else were actually the only people sleeping at the actual camp. Everyone else, all of the other cast and crew, were actually spending the nights in nearby hotels and that. But they actually stayed there, I think, at the actual camp. I don't know.
They're watching Marathon Man and
yeah,
another film. They watch the same two films all the time.
Yeah, that's it.
And they must have been bored. Say they knew every word of dialogue. You know, they had watched them so much.
Yeah. I read that young Jason was going to be played by Sean Cunningham. Originally wanted his, I believe it was his son, to actually play young Jason. Yeah, young Jason in the movie. And obviously, talking about young Jason, we've got to talk about the jump scare scene at the end, which I'm sure.
Yeah, sorry, obviously an influence from Carrie.
Oh, definitely. Yes, I'm sure it had a lot of popcorn flying. You know, back in 1980, it's like Carrie. It lulls you into that false sense of security. You think the movie's over. You know, she survived, etc. And it's really well done. Actually, I really love that scene. You know, and that soft melodic music, and it's slowly panning in, and
it's the idyllic setting, and you think it's all nice, and we can all go home quite happy, we're safe, we're alive, and then boom, you know, that is extremely effective, very, very well executed.
Yeah, it's like you said, Sean Cunningham. Certainly, they took a leaf. They took a leaf out of Carrie's book there, and Carrie again. I might be wrong here. It's the first film I've certainly can think of. Carrie might have been the first horror movie to have a jump scare ending. I certainly can't think of another horror movie prior to that actually had a jump scare as its effectively its ending.
Yeah, I would need to think about that. I think you're probably right, though.
But you know, with these movies, obviously, like with Friday the 13th and that, as I said, I love the setting to it, and I think the Friday the 13th franchise has been very kind of like, I think it's one of the more consistent horror franchises out there. I have to admit.
Yeah.
I think the reason being, and I don't know if you'd agree with me here, Halloween's a great movie. I love Halloween. The problem is, any sequel coming after Halloween has a lot to live up to. Halloween 2, and I think that's the problem. Friday the 13th is I do prefer Halloween to Friday the 13th, but I do really like Friday the 13th. So I think that every sequel that come after Halloween had a tougher act to follow. With Friday the 13th, I think there's actually a better level of consistency there. There's some highs and lows, certainly. I think there's some duds in the franchise. I really don't care for Jason Takes Manhattan or Jason X. I know it's dumb fun. At the end of the day, it's not trying to be anything else than what it is. I get that. But I think when your franchise starts going to space, I think that's when you're kind of telling the audience we've got problems now.
I think it's definitely time to call it a day. Yeah.
Leprechaun. That went to space, didn't it? And then to the Bronx twice.
Dreadful. No, I know what you're saying, because if the bar is raised very early on, then you're really going to struggle you know, to actually get close to that.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. In Halloween, you know, it was like it started off so strong, and you're thinking, oh boy, how are we going to top that? It's very, very difficult. Yeah.
Well, I know
But there
that
is more consistency with Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I think, and again, I mean, look how often they were churned out. I mean, Friday the 13th was 1980, sequel was 81, then 82, then 84 was final chapter. 85, they were being churned out on a consistent basis.
Oh
Now,
yeah, one a
there's
year.
yeah, well, there was only like a couple of years gaps between some of them. Now, I know Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday, was released in 93, and the one prior to that was Jason Takes Manhattan, which I believe was 89. I'm sure it was 80. I'm sure it was 8. It was 88 or 89. I think it was 89.
It was. Yeah, close enough.
So a little bit, a little bit of a gap there. Now, the only other horror franchise I can think of where the movies have been more churned up frequently is Saw. The first 7 Saw films were all released 1 year of each other. 2004 up until 2010, one a year. Yeah.
Just gets beyond ridiculous.
At the end of the day, it's there's a fan base and money. As long as something is making money, there's always that chance. Do you know what? This made money. Let's make a sequel. But to me, it's what a lot of I do like the Friday the 13th franchise. I do like a lot of the films in there. You kind of know what you're getting with a Friday the 13th film. But as I said, when the first one came out, I would have loved to have seen it on the big screen, because you just didn't know what you were in store for at that point.
Yeah. No. Well, my brother and his then girlfriend went to see it. Now, I was still very young and at primary school, and they told me they were absolutely terrified out their minds. So much so, they refused to go and see the sequel when it came out. And all they kept talking about was that ending.
Yeah.
They said the ending would just finished it for them,
Yeah.
So brilliant. And I was desperate to see it, but I was too young.
Yeah.
But see, when you're talking about endings and the jump scare, Carrie, I think, was influenced by Deliverance.
1972. Yeah.
Did that not have a kind of
it's
very subtle?
It's been a long time. I would have to rewatch that. I have not seen Deliverance for a good few years. I really don't recall.
Yeah, I think it's got a kind of subtle jump scare with a hand at the end.
Oh, okay, maybe. I'd certainly have to look into that. But I mean, interestingly, Sean Cunningham didn't like the idea. He was offered to direct Friday the 13th Part 2, but he didn't actually like the idea of Jason being the killer, coming back. He's supposed, dead and coming back and all that. But he regretted it, actually. As soon as he saw that Friday the 13th Part 2 was a success, also, there was some regret there. But he wasn't actually open to the idea to begin with. Because at that point, it was never intended to be a franchise. When the first film came out, there wasn't really the intention of a sequel, not until it became successful. He, as I said, he actually regretted it, and it became a successful franchise. Now, I don't know if this is still the case. It probably isn't. But if inflation was taken into account, now Saw's probably overtaken this. Friday the 13th would be the most successful horror franchise. But that record has probably been broken now, because I do believe I read this prior to the release of Halloween 2018. And obviously that made, I think, $255 million at the box office.
No, I think you're right, Barry. Yeah, I think you're right, pal.
Yeah. But I think Halloween is shaping up to be, assuming Halloween Kills becomes the box office success that Halloween 2018 was, Halloween could actually become the highest grossing horror franchise.
Yeah, I think it's definitely creeping up.
I think this whole film, like Halloween, was filmed in, I think this film was filmed in 28 days. I know Halloween was filmed in 21 days. But yeah, this whole movie was made in like 28 days. And I think that, I read somewhere as well that Sean Cunningham had basically, what was it again? He said that he, I can't remember what he said now. That he initially, to begin with, he was a little bit apprehensive. He wanted to kind of like market this film to Halloween fans, as well as, now you'd probably tell me what film it is now. It's kind of a summer camp film. Is it Meatballs?
I think it is, yes. Yeah, that's right, Barry. You're right.
He kind of wanted to target this film towards two audiences. So you kind of summer camp thing and slasher movies. Yes, although the term slasher wasn't being thrown around at this point or anything like that or whatever. So they were kind of like his target audiences.
No, you're spot on. You're spot on.
You know, for this film and that. So, you know, Crazy Ralph's killed in the sequel, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's strangled, doesn't he? Get the wire. Is it wire around him?
Yeah, it's like a garrote or something. Yeah, he's killed from like behind the tree. Now, I don't want to go too much off topic. I never understood the opening scene of Friday the 13th Part 2. And I know that Adrienne King only wanted to be in the second, because initially she didn't want to be in Friday the 13th. She didn't like the fact of, you know, the content of it, you know, it being a horror movie and gore and that. But with the second film, initially, I don't think she was keen on it, and she only wanted to be in the film as if she's not in it for very long. So hence why she's killed off very early on in the movie. I never understood why Jason took the kettle off the thing. I don't know if you remember that. Why?
I just remember the head in the fridge, and you know, her getting the cat jumping. That was the kind of scare.
One of the oldest tropes in the book, isn't it? Eh? The old jumping cat.
The cat appears, you know.
Yeah.
At the window, you know.
Yeah. But I never understood why Jason took the kettle. It's just a pointless little. He takes the kettle off the thing. Why does he care about like? But yeah, he takes the kettle off and that. Now, I think it's interesting what Gene Siskel said about Friday the 13th, because needless to say, this film did not go down well with a lot of critics. I think, did he give it a whopping 1.5 out of 4 stars? I think I'm pretty certain he gave it 1.5 4 stars. And I've actually wrote this down because I can't remember this word for word what he said, but I think he said something along the lines of that Sean Cunningham was one of the most despicable creatures to ever infest the film industry.
Oof.
Obviously, at that point, he'd never met Rob Zombie. But yeah, he actually said he's one of the most despicable creatures to ever infest the film industry, and that this film was absolute junk. That's the thing with these movies. Especially at the time period, the video nasties was, you know, kicked in at that point and that as well. These films were reviled by critics.
Oh yeah, yeah, because of misogynistic.
Yeah,
it deemed as misogynistic, and that's it, you know. So.
And do you know what the great irony of that is, though? I read an article only a few months ago that basically says that it's around, I'm sure it's around 60%. 60% of all victims in slasher movies are men.
Yeah. Well,
all men have been killed in slasher movies.
Yeah, I mean, look at Friday the 13th. You know, it's like, it's just anybody. If, you know, anybody, doesn't matter, you know, whether you're male or female. So,
yeah,
you get it. You get it.
Yeah. Yeah, more men. Yeah, more men have been killed. But yeah, these films and that. But box office success, obviously, it's a fan favorite, isn't it? It's a popular horror film among, you know, slasher movie fans. And I love the score. I love Harry Manfredini's score, who recycled a lot of his music actually for a film called, you've probably seen it, called Slaughter High.
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah, it's good. Very good film.
British, isn't it? It's British, but presents itself to be an American slasher film.
It is. Yeah, it's good. Effective mask in that as well, I think.
Oh, I don't know. I think a lot of bad voice, a lot of bad accents in there.
Yeah, but the mask, I think there's a good mask in
I do
it.
like, yes, I do like the mask. Yeah. I do like the mask in that. And I quite like the set in the whole abandoned school setting in that. But Slaughter High is one of them films that it's a complete and utter cheese fest, you know, right from the openings. But it does, it does have some inventive deaths.
It has, but you just hear that title and you think, oh, it sounds like a really crap song.
Yeah.
Slaughter High, we're all going to Slaughter High. You can just imagine it having a theme song,
Well, it was going to be called April Fool's Day. That was the original
Yeah.
title. And then, of course, Paramount had acquired the name rights to their 86 film because they both come out. Yeah, that's it. And obviously, Harry Manfredini did the score for that as well.
Yeah, and Amy Steele, I think Amy Steele was in that film, wasn't she? She's in Friday the 13th Part 2.
That's correct, as Ginny, I believe, who I know among a lot of Friday the 13th fans, she's regarded as being one of the best, if not the best, final girl.
Yeah, she is.
Because she actually uses some psychology to kind of outwit Jason, where she puts on Jason's mother, Pamela Voorhees' jumper, pretending to be his mother, and it's not until he sees the head that he kind of puts, two and two together. But yeah, with the original Friday the 13th and that, I mean, another death, a death that we didn't talk about, because Bill Crosby, son is obviously Bing Crosby. Sorry, his son's in this film, Harry Crosby, and I think he certainly gets the point, doesn't he? He definitely gets the point in this movie.
Yeah,
hanging on the door. With God knows how many arrows in him. If you look closely, because it was apparently quite awkward for him to where you could actually see his eye twitch.
No wonder. That must have been quite, uncomfortable for the guy.
Yeah. Do you know what I think they were trying to do as well? I might be wrong here, but I feel like he was in a way a selling point to have Bing Crosby, a famous singer, his son, to be in this movie, that it would kind of attract.
It's like the Jamie Lee Curtis, being the daughter of Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh in Halloween.
Exactly. And of course, she did go on to become a big star, whereas I think Harry Crosby disappeared from film, didn't he? I don't think he really...
I can't think of anything else. No, I think that was it, really. Nothing.
Annie? Obviously, the actress name is escaping me. Annie's obviously... And that's another thing that points us towards Steve Christie. She's picked up in a Jeep. He drives a Jeep.
Oh, is that Robbie Morgan? No, or is that the other girl? That's...
I can't remember the actress that actually plays Annie. Annie's obviously the one that's going to be the cook, and she gets her throat cut, doesn't she? She gets in the Jeep. But again, you'd put two and two together to go into Sherlock Holmes mode and that. She's picked up in a Jeep, and obviously Steve Christie actually drives about in a Jeep as well. Obviously there's a bit of the legs used, the killer's legs that we see, obviously not Betsy Palmer. They're actually a man's legs that are actually being used as well.
Because you notice that even when she was being killed at the beginning, I think it's Robbie Morgan, I think that plays her, and you see the hand, when the knife goes to cut her throat, and it's the hand is masculine, it is a hand. You see, I think you actually see the hair on the hand,
probably.
If you're looking closely at that, trying not to look at the throat, you're thinking, oh, it's a guy anyway. It's a guy. It's a killer.
Yeah. I don't think we'd seen many, not that I can think of. Now, mate, in Giallos, in whole different podcast. In Giallos, we've had female killers before. You go back to Bird with a Crystal Plumage, 1970. Spoiler alert: the killer is a female. At this point in time, we didn't really have many female killers on screen. Not. Certainly not in movies that would be deemed to be slashers or proto-slasher films.
No. I mean, you had certainly the kind of crazy old lady films, like in the 60s. Because you had Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte, The Nanny, Die, Die, My Darling, all those kind of films, They've got a kind of, I wouldn't say the name, but they're known as a certain type of film. And I wouldn't say it in case I offend someone. So,
well,
those films.
I read that Sally Field as well. Sally Field was actually offered a role in this movie. Friday the 13th.
And she turned it down.
Yeah, she actually turned it down.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, these kind of movies, I mean, these kind of films have catapulted some people to stardom. You know, you got to start somewhere at the end of the day. You got to start somewhere in your career. And look at Tom Hanks. He starred in He Knows You're Alone, a slasher flick released in the very same year. And he's one of Hollywood's biggest stars now. And even in He Knows You're Alone, he doesn't really have a huge amount in the way of screen time. But even in the screen time he does have, he proves to be really likable. And I read that he was originally going to be killed off in that movie. But even back then, before he was a Hollywood star, he was deemed too likable to even be killed off. It's Tom Hanks. You can't kill off Tom Hanks.
He's too nice. He's too nice.
I like Tom. I really do like Tom Hanks. I think he just seems like a genuinely such a nice guy. I think he's a great acting talent as well.
He does. But you've only got to see him in something like Big. And you think, I like the guy. You know, he's a good guy.
Yeah, and that was his first Oscar nomination, ironically. Yeah. But I don't think he really evolved into an actor until he got into the 90s with films like Philadelphia, when he started veering away from more comedic roles and taking on more dramatic roles. I think that's when he really started to showcase, you know, how great of an actor that he is. But yeah, with Friday the 13th and that, I mean, what else is there to say? It's a film. It's certainly one of the... Even though Halloween, films like Black Christmas and Halloween essentially started this trend, I don't think it really got into the mainstream fully fledged until Friday the 13th. Halloween was a big commercial success, but I think it was with Friday the 13th that we started to see more of these films coming out.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think
following year, we had another campsite slasher film. We had The Burning.
That's right.
Which clearly follows in the footsteps. My Bloody Valentine, Happy Birthday to Me, The Fun House. That's a very different kind of a slasher film. But
yeah. But I think they had, the producers by that time had kind of cottoned on to the idea, let's have a day, a kind of landmark day, and make a horror film out of it.
Yeah.
You know, like Christmas time, New Year, so you had Christmas Evil, you had Silent Night, Deadly Night in 1984.
Yeah.
That was a really controversial film. And then you had New Year's Evil, which is a kind of, you know, My Bloody Valentine, Happy Birthday to Me, just all the kind of fest days, April Fool's Day, you know, any excuse to slash people.
Yeah. Black Christmas was the first. Black Christmas was really the first seasonal slasher movie. You know, it was the very first. And I mean, 81 was the single best year in the history of slasher films. 81. When you look at how many came out that year, it's crazy. Friday 2, Halloween 2, like you said, My Bloody Valentine, The Prowler, Happy Birthday to Me, The Fun House, The Burning.
I think New Year's Evil was 1981, 82.
It could have been. Graduation Day, I know, was 81 as well. That's one of the... not really a big fan of that one. I think it kind of like got kind of, to me, one of the bottom of the barrel kind of slasher films was Splatter University.
Oh, good, yes. Well, it's not the worst. I know what the worst is.
Go on, what's the worst?
Final Exam.
81 again. Released in 81.
In my opinion, it's dreadful.
The thing, all right, I'm going to say this on Final Exam. I've seen it once, and I watched it years ago, and this is long before it came out on Blu-ray and all that. I didn't like it. I did not like it. No. I know some people that really like it. I know some people that think it's a really solid slasher film. I did not like it. I found it very bland. Just very dreadful. Bland. Yeah. You got a guy that shows up. There's no motive. I'm not saying the mask is a necessity or whatever. He's just a normal guy. I say normal in, you know, the look sense and whatever. And that's it. He just shows up. There's no motive. I don't know. To me, all right, Halloween hasn't got a motive, but Halloween is directed well. It's very well directed. It's very well put together. It has a great score. It has a great villain in Michael Myers. And I just thought Final Exam, I think it was clear at this point, they were just, slasher films were existing for the sake of existing.
Yeah, it was just really desperate, but I just think it lacked energy. You know, there was nothing, there was no kind of excitement about it. You know, there was nothing really to wow you at all. Even the deaths were boring.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that is a problem I have. At the end of the day, we watch slasher movies for the deaths. Come on, at the end of the day, all right, it's great if they're well made and suspenseful and that, but if they haven't got great acting, if they haven't got great, fantastic direction, whatever, at least we can get some good deaths, some good, memorable deaths. Right. And I don't remember anything of Final Exam. I can't remember any deaths at all.
I can't remember one. Honestly, that's how bad it is. I fell asleep, obviously. There you go.
Yeah. I think Friday the 13th, the original Friday the 13th, is one of the best. I think personally, I think it is one of the best slasher films. I think it is one of the best of its kind. It's a tough one, actually, because there's 3 big slasher films that I think of when I think of 4 big slasher films in 1980. You got Friday the 13th, you got He Knows You're Alone, Terror Train, and Prom Night. And the only slasher film, to me, that gets anywhere close to Friday the 13th that year is Terror Train. I do like Terror Train.
It's brilliant. No, it's a really good film. Yeah.
It stands out because of the setting, the train. I love the whole, the idea of a killer going from costume to costume.
Yeah, and it's claustrophobic as well, because of the interior, the one location, it feels more threatening.
Yeah, definitely. There's nowhere to run to. You're on a train.
That's it. They're trapped. Trapped,
But with Friday the 13th, there's a sense of isolation. They're kind of a summer camp, middle of nowhere. I know I did read somewhere that somebody wasn't keen on the idea of, because there's a scene in the film, actually it does kind of make me laugh. There's a scene where a police officer shows up to check on the kids. Do you remember that scene?
Oh, yeah, I do.
What is it again? We're not going to have any weirdness around here. Or
that's right.
Something like that and whatever. And some people have said, is it truly that isolated if a policeman just kind of rolls up and whatever? But to me, that's just something purely cosmetic. That scene kind of makes me laugh, actually. He just shows up, but he looks like a bit of an oddball himself. But just the title, just the word Camp Crystal Lake has just become iconic, synonymous. You see a summer camp in any film, you think Friday the 13th.
I think what was it going to be called? It was called Camp Blood, Long Night at Camp Blood, I think.
That was like a working original title for it. Yeah. Camp Blood. Camp Blood, to me, it's not that it's a terrible title, but Camp Blood, and I think there is a Camp Blood. I think there is a slasher film like bottom of the barrel, straight to DVD slasher film called Camp Blood, actually, in which the killer wears a clown mask. Camp Blood just sounds a bit more, how do I put it? It just sounds a little more straight to DVD B-movie TV.
It does, and I think it gives the game away, because Friday the 13th doesn't give you any idea of where it's set, what it's about. You just think, well, that's a day that's supposed to be superstitious, you're unlucky.
Yeah.
It conjures up all that kind of thing, but you never think for 1 minute it relates to a camp and all these young people are going to be killed.
Yeah, true.
It doesn't tell you.
Now, one of the other tropes as well, which, let's face it, is synonymous with the genre, is when Annie's running, we get that small chase sequence, and I don't know, they can't seem to stay on their feet for longer than 10 seconds, can they? Every time they run, they just have to trip over something that isn't even there.
She does, she falls. I know. And then that's it. End of Annie.
Yeah. Because I like the whole thing of it. She wanders into the diner, and as soon as she mentions she's going to Camp Crystal Lake, and they all turn as if to say, "Oh God!" And I like that whole, and that again, that become a trope. Ralph became a trope with them kind of movies. There'd often be like one character that would like warn them doom, of impending doom. Crazy Ralph is the best of the bunch, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
I
can't be beaten.
That scene in the film where kind of a jump scare. I think it made me jump first time I watched it, when Alice goes to the pantry and he's in the freaking pantry, isn't he?
That's right.
God sent me. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, the Funhouse has one. In the Funhouse, there's this crazy religious lady. I don't know if you remember her, but she's like the prophet of doom in that movie.
Oh, is it a fortune teller? Is it?
Not the fortune teller, but there's a little old hag of a lady. There's like a little.
Oh
yeah, and she's
and
like,
she does.
God's watching you. God's watching you, and
scares the wee boy.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, and I'm sure there's more. You know, there's a lot of these films. I'm sure there was more of them in that. But yeah, you know, Friday the 13th. I think Betsy Palmer as well. What was it? I think she wanted to get wrapped up on filming like as soon as possible. As I say, she wasn't that keen on the movie or the fact of starring in the film and that. But it was money. It was it was a paycheck. Right. And it was Victor Miller that actually said that at the end of the day, if it wasn't for like Halloween, this film probably wouldn't have happened.
No, that's right.
You know, if Halloween.
No, she was very well wrapped up anyway with that big jumper that she had on.
Yes, she was, wasn't she?
Yeah, aye. Every time I see jumpers like that, I always think of Betsy Palmer.
It does amaze me, actually, again, like near the end of the movie, because obviously we get this big, I think it's even long, it's longer than Halloween's, I think. We get this big, the chase sequence, the chase, her, you know, Alice is fending for herself, blah, blah, and all that. And it makes me wonder, there's that scene where she's slapping her, like, back and forth and everything. God, yeah. And, you know, I watch it, it's great, but I'm watching it and I'm thinking to myself, how was she able to kill so many goddamn people here, but she can't kill Alice?
Yeah, that's right. There's only one left, you know, and she's right there in front of you.
She runs at her with a knife, and I'm like, yeah, you watch it, and I'm like, she's been an efficient killer all movie, and all of a sudden, she can't kill Alice.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, it's just, you know, it's part of the charm of the film, man. You know, I love it. And
that is. You had the thunderstorm to stir up the climax, and then the music starts to really get going. Yeah. Because the music, as you say, only plays with the killer. You know, it accompanies the killer. That's the only time you hear it.
Yeah.
But you hear it mainly in the climax. You know, I think it's relentless. You know, in the last section of the film.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's great. It's put to good use. The score's really good, put to good use. It's very like Halloween. Halloween has such a simplistic score, but it's very effective.
That's
you know, it does complement the film perfectly. So yeah, I mean, why was she padded up again? Is it because she was cold, or was it just to make herself look more physical presence?
Yeah, I think it was to make herself look even larger and more threatening. I don't know. That was done on purpose, you know. But she certainly looked, you know, quite. My God, I'm not approaching you.
Yeah,
you know, not somebody you would like to meet in a dark night.
Yeah, you know, I love that. Kill her, mummy, and all that. And
get her, mummy.
As you can tell, I've not been practicing that, so
no, I would never have guessed. No.
Yeah. Almost as good it's me, Billy. Almost as good as that we did.
That's definitely your best. That's good. Yeah. That's good. That's really quite frightening, actually. That is scary, though. You've nailed it.
Well, yeah. I mean, what is it? Pretty Agnes, and yeah. So the question is now. Obviously, we can kind of reveal. Is there a specific film you'd like to jump into next time? Because to me, I think, just to summarize this, I think Friday the 13th is the film that kind of set the template for camp slasher movies. I really like The Burning. I really like it. Some people prefer The Burning. I fully get that. Some people prefer it. I personally prefer Friday the 13th of the two. I think they're both great slasher movies. But is there a movie in particular? Is there a specific slasher movie or a film from another subgenre that you're a big fan of that you'd like to cover?
I think you probably know what I'm going to say. No.
Oh, hang on a sec. Was it released in 1976 and directed by Alfred Soule?
Absolutely spot on.
Communion, aka Alice Sweet Alice.
Yes.
Perfectly good. That will be the next one then. That will be the next episode we do.
Thank you.
I watched it recently and for the first time in quite a while. It's a really good film. It's a really good film. Often overlooked. Saying that though, it has a fan base because when I posted it online, there was a lot of comments, a lot of people, I love this film, great choice and all that. It has a fan base, but generally speaking, it probably doesn't get talked about that much.
I think at the beginning, like The Wicker Man, more of a cult, but I think now it's becoming more appreciated and kind of more mainstream.
Yeah.
You know, there's more of a mainstream appreciation for that. It's the same with The Wicker Man. The Wicker Man was one of those kind of films that was very kind of isolated and it had that cult following.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody knows about it now, you know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Possibly in the same vein as that, I think.
We'll do Alice Sweet Alice next. Just got to quickly say as well, I almost forgot that Friday the 13th, I believe, was nominated for a Golden Razzie as well, a Golden Raspberry.
Was it?
It was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty certain it was. Which, again, is not surprising. A lot of these films were being hated upon at the time and that and whatever. But, you know, they've got fan bases. There's people out there that have kept the legacy of these films alive. You know, which is great. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today, man. Good to have you here again.
Okay, fantastic. No, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
And with Alice Sweet Alice, I'm gonna let you steal the thunder because that is probably a film you know a lot more about than what I do. So yeah, I will. You know, you'll have a lot to contribute. Definitely, I know that much because I know it's one of your favourites.
Yeah, I know, but it's your show, so I'm more than happy just to contribute.
But yeah, looking forward to it, man. We'll do that, and yeah, thanks a lot to everyone that listened. And what should I say? And we'll be back again soon to haunt you and torment you. If you've liked what you heard, please feel free to like, subscribe. All support's massively appreciated. But yeah, that's it for today. So thanks a lot, and we'll be back again soon.
Thanks, guys.